Let's take a look at what we are going to create for this project. It's going to be a basic loan calculator that you can use to calculate your monthly payment, either for your mortgage or any type of loan you have. So basically you enter in the amount. Say for example, I want to borrow a loan of $1,000 and I want to repay that over 10 months and the interest rate is 10%. So it tells me the amount. This is the monthly payment I will pay over 10 months for me to pay off the loan. So that's basically what we are going to create. That's it. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to create a directory for our project. We will also create the HTML structure for the project. I'm going to create the directory on my desktop by just right-clicking and going new folder, and I'll just give the folder a name. I'm just going to call it loan calculator. So you could also create directory the same way if you are using a Mac. So that's my directory there. I have called it loan calculator. Next thing I want to do is create the HTML structure for the project. I am going to be using Sublime Text Editor to create the structure. So this is the Sublime Text Editor. I am going to add the HTML code. I have already pre-staged it. So I'll just add the code on and I'll explain the code line by line. So the first thing I'm going to do is name my file here. I'm going to call, this is going to be my HTML file. So I'm calling it loancalculator.html and I'm saving it inside my directory, which I've called loan calculator. So I'm going to click save. And you can see here it displays the name of the document, and here on the bottom right also you can see it says HTML. So any code I add in here will be an HTML code. I have added some basic structure to our HTML document. I'm just going to run through them with you. Line 1 here is the doc type, which basically is a declaration to the web browser, just to let them know that the type of document it should display is a HTML document, and here this is where the actual HTML document starts from. Doc type tells the browser this is a HTML5 document. So from line 3 to line 23 is what constitutes the actual HTML document. So we've got the head section. Inside the head section we've got a meta charset. This attribute basically refers to the Unicode, the type of characters it will accept. UTF-8 is the standard character format used in the world. And here on line 7, I've got a link to the style sheet. I'm going to be using an external style sheet, which I will create later. And I'm going to call it loancalculator.css. I've just added a title called loan calculator. So the title is what will be displayed in the browser window when the application runs. Moving on to the body section here, which this is the opening body tag and that's the closing tag. The body tag basically is where the content for the actual application is rendered. So any content you see within the body tag is what is going to be visible to the user. So here I've got an ID. I'm going to wrap the content inside a div, and I've given the div an ID attribute of loan cal. And here I've got an H1 tag. This is a heading tag that will display the title of the application. It will just say loan calculator. In here, in between, after the H1, I'm going to add some paragraph. The paragraph will serve as input fields for the various parts of the loan calculator. And here I've got a script. This will be my JavaScript. This is where I will add the logic or the function that would do the actual computing or calculation of the loan. And this is the name I'm going to call it when I create the file. I have added some paragraph here. I've added 3 paragraphs here that will be used as input field for us to input the values that we will use to calculate the loan. So here I've got, this will going to be the loan amount, and it's going to be in dollars. And I've given the input an ID of amount. The type is going to be a number, and the minimum is 1, maximum 5 million. And here I've got the onChange event. The onChange event basically occurs when the value of an element has been changed. So each time the values that's been inputted changes, this onChange event here will call this function, which is a compute loan function, and it will recalculate and compute the new value based on the input that has been entered. So we'll be creating a function called compute loan later inside our JavaScript file. Here we've got another field here called interest rate, and it's going to be in percent. So this is where we'll input the interest rate, and the type, I've given it an ID value of interest underscore rate. The type is going to be a number. Minimum value is 0. Maximum is going to be 100 in terms of interest rate. I'm going to start off with an initial value of 10% as the interest rate. And then I've got here called step. The step attribute basically is used to specify the legal number of intervals for an input element. So this step here is basically specifying the legal number of intervals for the input element. And normally you can use this with the maximum and minimum attribute. You can see here I've got minimum attribute here and maximum attribute. Also again, we are attaching the onChange event. So anytime this value changes, it will call this function here called compute loan. And here for the other paragraph, we've got the months to pay. So this will be the value to be entered for the amount of month it will take to repay the loan. So I've given this input an ID of month. The type is going to be a number. Minimum value is 1. Maximum value is 300 months. 300 months basically is equivalent to 25 years. So you can change this value if you want to do that. The value, initial value, I've given it to be 1. Again, I'm using the step attribute, and the value of that step is 1. Again, just to reiterate that the step attribute is used to specify the legal number of intervals for an input element. All right. Again, here we're calling the onChange event. So if anytime the value changes, it will trigger this function here called compute loan, and it will recompute the values entered. Here we've got a H2 element. This is what will display the actual amount to be paid monthly. So the amount you will pay monthly will be displayed inside this H2 tag. So all the values in green here are known as attributes. The values in green are attributes. Attributes basically provides additional information about the HTML element. Anywhere you've got value here, this value attribute basically specifies the value of an input element. So whatever value you enter, this is what is going to capture the value. So I'm just going to save this. We've basically finished the structure. we can run this inside our HTML to see what it looks like. So I'm just going to open up the directory and double click on this loan calculator.html, and you can see here this is the basic structure. So this is exactly how I want the structure to look. So in the next lecture we'll start doing the JavaScript part of it. We'll create the logic that will make all these work. So that's it for this lecture. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Hello and welcome. In this video we are going to create the logic that will make the loan calculator work. So let's create a new file that we will use to write our JavaScript code. So this is our HTML. So I'm just going to click on the file option here and click on new file. And I'm going to save this file. I'll do save as inside the directory called loan calculator. I'm going to save this as loan calculator.js, and make sure in the drop down I'm going to select JavaScript and click save. So any code I add here now will be a JavaScript code. Okay, so the function I'm going to create, I'm going to call it compute loan because I've already made references to it here inside my HTML code. So type in the word function to create a function. You do function space followed by the name of the function, and the function is going to be called compute loan. Notice I've used camel case, which means the first letter is lowercase and the first letter of the next word is uppercase. And next I need to place parentheses and then curly braces, and I'll separate the curly braces. In between the curly braces is where we'll add the logic for the loan. First thing I want to do, I'm going to add some variables. So let me run through the variables with you. On line 3, I've created a variable called amount. This will represent the amount of loan that you want to borrow, and I've set it to equals to document.getElementById, and I passed in the ID of amount. If you're wondering where it got this ID values from, it's from the HTML side of things. So here we've got an ID called amount. So that's what I'm referring to here. And then the dot value basically refers to the value that you would input as the amount. Line 4, I've got a variable called interest underscore rate, and I've set that to equals to the document.getElementById, and the ID is interest underscore rate. So whatever value we have as the interest rate is going to grab that. So again, if I go into my HTML, you can see we've got an ID called interest underscore rate. That's what it's referring to. Line 5, I've got a variable called months. Again, this is equals to the document.getElementById, and the ID is months. Again, we have any value that is entered for that value for that month will be attached to this variable. So if we come here again, we've got an ID called months. That's what it's referring to. Here we've got a variable called interest. So this is going to represent the actual interest. So the interest on the loan is going to be the amount, which is this amount variable, times the interest underscore rate times 0.1. Anytime you have values surrounded by parentheses, those values are computed first. So it will do the interest rate times 0.1 first before the division and the multiplication. Okay, so the 0.1 basically gives it a 2 decimal places, so it will have 2 decimals after the figure. Line 7 here, I've got a variable called payment, and this variable is going to be equals to the amount. This will represent the monthly payment that the loan borrower have to pay. So it's going to be equals to the amount divided by the months plus the interest. And then here we're attaching the toFix method. Basically, this enables you to have 2 decimal places or 2 numbers after the decimal place. That's what that is for. Next, we're going to add a line of code that will be responsible for putting commas on numbers for 3 digits. So it will look through the value and then place a comma after every 3 digits. So I'm going to try and explain this line 8 as much as I can here. The payment basically here is going to equals to the payment dot to string. Basically is converting the value to string, and then it's replacing it. This is where it's going to convert it into a money format. It's going to convert the format into money, and it's doing that using this replace method. And inside the replace method here, we've got these values. I'll try and explain these as much as I can. This /b here basically is used to look within a word boundary, and what that means is that it can't be part of another type of word. So it's kind of a pattern it has to look for. And then this here, this question mark, basically the question mark and the equals to tells it to find whatever group is looking for. For example, it will look for, it's using this D/3 here to look for 3 digits. So it will look for any 3 digits in a row and then place a comma there. The plus, this plus basically marks the 3 digits wrapped in parentheses to make sure that it's treated as a block of 3. So it basically helps to repeat the pattern so it knows where to place the comma after every 3 digits. I've added another block, another line of code, line 9 here. Line 9 basically is going to be responsible for displaying the output. So it's going to say document, we're using the document.getElementById method, and we are grabbing the ID, which is this here, this ID here, this H2 tag. So it's going to grab that. This is where it will inject the result of the computed loan repayment. So it will grab that and it will replace that div, the content of it, with this .inner.html, and the value of this inner.html is this here. So it will now output inside this div here, it will output the word monthly payment. It will then give the value of the monthly payment, which is going to be in dollars plus the payment. Okay, so that's what it's going to do. So I'm just going to save that, do a file and save all, and I'll go into my directory, which is this, and just double click on the loan calculator.html to run the application. So let's quickly test it. Let's say I want to borrow 10,000. You can either input the value or you can use this little angles here to move it forward. So I'm going to put in 10,000, and let's say the interest rate on that is 10%. And let's say I want to borrow that over 12 months. This is what I'm going to repay every month, 916.67. So these values are changeable, so feel free to play around with the values to test the app. So that's basically it. And we've got the main functionality of the app working. In the next lecture, I'm just going to add some CSS to make it look a bit nicer. So that's it for this lecture. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.
Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to add some CSS for our. To begin, let's create a new file. So I'm going to click on File, New, and I'm going to save it as a CSS file. So I'll call it loan calculator.css. I'm just going to use lowercase, and in the drop down here, make sure you look for the CSS format and click save. So this file here is now CSS, you can see here. So any code I add here will be CSS. Because this is not really a CSS course, I'm not going to spend too much time on the CSS part of things. I've already staged the code. I'm just going to add that in. So this is the CSS. I'm just going to quickly run through Notice that when we created the HTML, these hash are all IDs. Okay, so we gave IDs, anything you got here, ID, these are all attributes. So inside my CSS, I am targeting all these IDs values here. Okay, so for the loan car here, which is, if we go into, which is this div here, the actual div itself, the entire div is called loan car. So I'm giving it a width, I'm wrapping it round a div. This is the width in pixels, the height, the background color, the color of this text, the margin from the left. Basically, I'm creating some space from the left. Margin from the top, I'm moving some spaces from the top, moving it down. Padding refers to the space inside the div. So these are all the values on the right, and the actual properties are on the left. This is the variable, the ID for the months. I'm giving it a width of that, height of that. And again, this is the ID for amount. So these are just basic CSS. All right, margin left, width, and this is the heading tag. I'm giving the heading tag a font size of 40 pixels. So I'm going to save that and click Save All. So this is what the application looks like. If I refresh it, we should see this is the new look. All right, so I'm just going to, let's just do a quick one here. So I do a $500 loan and I'm paying this over 10 months. It tells me this is what I need to pay every month. So we've got the application working as designed. So this can come in quite useful even in your day-to-day. If you've got a mortgage payment you want to calculate, or you're planning to take out loans, this calculator can be. So that's it for this project. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.